This is Anthony Fostenchek with OhioDaily blog. I'm here with congressional candidate in the 2nd Congressional District, Democrat Surya Yalamanchili. Welcome, Surya.
Thanks, Anthony. It's good to speak with you.
How's the campaign going so far?
Well, I think it's going really well. It's a really big district, like a lot of the districts here in Ohio. It's got part of 7 counties in it, and so spent a lot of time in the car, but the reaction is pretty universal, especially among Democrats. You see a general frustration with Schmidt. It's been there for a long time with Congresswoman Jean Schmidt, who's my opponent, and honestly, you hear it among independents and Republicans too, because to start with, I think a number of them were never too enamored with the Congresswoman's record or her behavior, and then in a year when so many are frustrated and upset with Washington, she unfortunately represents is sort of the poster child for what they're frustrated with, which is people who take special interest money, who vote in the interest of corporations, who seem not to be very well educated on the specifics of an issue, and who regularly vote against the interests of her constituents. And so, I'd say this year, the way the polls are going, and with so much just uncertainty in the air, you never want to say that you're sure of anything. But I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic.
You mentioned that the district is 7 counties, and that poses unique challenges, especially to a first-time candidate like yourself. We posted a video today that an independent filmmaker is doing on the process and how money kind of fuels everything, and you are one of I may not be completely understanding this correctly, but I'm gathering you're one of just a handful of candidates running for Congress who are not taking PAC money. How is the lack of funding from sources like that impacting the things that you do on a daily basis? Because you still need to raise money. You've got to raise a significant amount because you're running in such a large district. Right.
No, you're right on that. There is a filmmaker named John Ennis, and he is doing a film all about I think part of it was spurred by Citizens United and just the general level of how much money is coming into the process. And I think it's going to be an excellent film, and I believe I'm just a small part of that. And as you said, I'm one of 2 candidates, we believe, in the entire country, federal candidates who are not taking any special interest money at all. So no PAC money, whether it's a corporation, a union, it doesn't matter. The others are Republican in Connecticut. So it definitely poses its share of challenges, but one, it's something I really believe in, that when we talk about legalized bribery and the fact that, hey, how could things be so screwed up, you look at it and you say, well, the fact that we've got people who are essentially buying their congressmen, that seems to be part of the problem. So from a principled standpoint, I couldn't do it. And 2, I think it gains me a lot in terms of message. A lot of Republicans and independents, when they hear that, they say, that is something different, because everybody talks about why people from the other side of the aisle, or maybe people who normally don't agree on every single issue, should support them. But it ends up being just talk, and people are pretty jaded, pretty cynical about that. But when you show them that, hey, I've taken this big risk because I mean it. This isn't trying to be Republican versus Democrat or anything like that. This should be sort of the establishment, corporations, the specialized interests who are trying to fleece the general interest. That's who should sort of be at war with each other. And I think that by showing that, it helps me tremendously with credibility. And so, sure, it's made it harder. I've had to rely entirely on individual donations, but I think it's worth it. And ultimately, I think we're going to look back and we're going to say that's one of the reasons we were able to be successful against long odds.
By today's standards, campaigns are almost perpetual animals. I mean, especially in congressional cycles. I mean, you almost have to be in the day after the election start, or the previous election is over. For the most part, you got into the race in the primary later than I think a lot of other candidates did in the state. Obviously, the political tone has changed quite a bit, and the landscape has changed quite a bit from the time you actually got into the race. How has this race, post-primary, changed your opinion, if it has, negatively or positively, of the process? I mean, you're a far distance from where you were, probably, in terms of your thinking, where you are today.
Absolutely. I'd say, just to be very honest, this isn't a politically calculated answer at all, since I have no idea what people will think of it. But the process has made me a lot more cynical. I talked about people being cynical about listening to politicians, which I would admit to being before I started this. But now, having seen this process from within, I'd say that I've become a lot more jaded in terms of the political process. And the one thing that has just reaffirmed to me is something that I was supportive of before, which is public financing of elections, the Fair Elections Now Act. But I really think until there's so much rot in the system, there's so much rot at the core of it, and until you tackle something like that, it's really going to be difficult to have wholesale change. But the exception to that could be if if candidates like myself, if I mentioned there's a Republican in Connecticut who's also not taking special interest money, say both of us win, I think that sends a pretty strong message to people that, wait a minute, they obviously were outspent, but the message so resonated with voters that maybe we shouldn't do it too. And you could end up having it from the bottoms up instead of the top down in terms of politicians saying maybe we need to relook at the playbook. But I'd say the net effect of having been in it and looking at it from the inside is just a pretty, I think I've gained a little bit of respect for some politicians who try to do it the right way, but also a little bit of contempt for the process.
You've shown, at least in that video clip that we posted, this all-in-one approach to the campaign, where you're pretty much campaign manager, you're the field staff, you do deliveries, you pick up the stamps, you hand letter the envelopes. It's not something you see candidates do. Obviously you think that it helps make a stronger connection with the voters. Is this something that you would, if you had the resources, would you continue to do it this way?
Well, yeah, and I think the video that you're referring to definitely focuses on the primary. Most of that footage, if not all of it, is from the primary. I've gotten a lot more help since then in the general, but it's the same strategy. We've had a lot more volunteers and just a lot more help. But the strategy still is the same, which is that we didn't want this to turn into some kind of big corporate enterprise where essentially it's all about just sending out, we talked about, hey, wait a minute, where are the crazy press releases that are just attacking, or whatever? Where's the sort of standard political fare? And, frankly, I just don't think it's part of this overall process that it's just not effective. I think a lot of people just don't tune in and aren't paying attention to the election until you get closer to it. And my point being there is that we spend so much money and so much time on all of these things that don't move the needle. And so absolutely, I think that I've still kept to that same principle of, hey, you know what? How can we do it cheaper? How can we do it ourselves? How can we do it simpler? And though we've had more help with volunteers and a campaign office and things like that, I'd say we still kept to the principle of, hey, what would a honest campaign sort of look like instead of selling out?
You've got just inside of a month left, or right around a month left.
32 days.
Yeah. 32 days. Have there been any debates in your district yet?
No. Shortly after the primary, I sent a letter to the Congresswoman, and we both, because we had met shortly after the election to sort of set ground rules. We both agreed we wanted to have sort of an honest discussion and keep it above board. But as part of that, she expressed an interest in debates, and so I said, great. We proposed doing 7 debates, 1 in each county. Unfortunately, and this is part of the cynicism that I talked about, and I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't expect it, but they sort of stalled and kept saying, oh yeah, we're interested, we'll deal with it, we'll get back to you, we want to get involved, and sort of they just kept doing that, and then when it came time to schedule the one debate that sort of is organized by the Chamber of Commerce and the Inquirer and the big one, they actually asked for it on the last possible day, which is 1 week before Election Day. So no debates yet. The first debate will be October 26th, the first and only debate. Oh. And, but then again, if I had her record, I wouldn't want to debate anybody either, because this is, she's got to spend an hour with her voting record and her past statements as something that she has to sort of own, and that's got to be a nightmare no matter who you are.
Should I assume that debate airs on TV on the day after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think actually Christmas Day, it's going to compete with the Christmas Story. No, it's October 26th. It'll be aired locally on WCPO, and it'll be on the radio here on VXU. So I still think it's at least, early voting will have missed early voting, but still a lot of voters will get a chance to actually hear an honest back and forth, hopefully an honest back and forth on the issues. And that's the reason I wanted more debates, but we'll take what we can get.
Hey, listen, 1 percentage point can move. That might be all you need.
Absolutely, and as you know, Congresswoman Schmidt, the single most unpopular member of Congress, having won with 45% of the vote in 08. And so we already know there's so many members of the Republican and independents in this district who have voted against her, despite being Republicans and voting for McCain. And so we know this is going to be a close election. There's no question about it. So I think it'll be an important debate.
Good. Well, give your website and a phone number if you've got a campaign number, and tell our readers how they can get involved or even send you a contribution here down the final days.
Yeah, thanks. The website's votechili.com. Vote and chili, just like the food, CHILI. So votechili.com, and there you can watch a video, learn about me on the issues. You can contact us through there and donate through the website as well. And if you live in the district, we've got some great yard signs and bumper stickers, but the yard signs in particular that say DC needs more chili and less Schmidt. So I think that's a great way to get conversation started. And people have already told us that, hey, I put this in my yard, and I was out walking my dog, and my neighbor comes up to me and starts asking me. She said, well, I get the Gene Schmidt part, and I guess this guy's running against her. Tell me more. And so it really is starting to get people talking, just because it sort of catches your eye and makes you chuckle. So I think the more of those we can get out there, the better. So if you live in the district, let's get you a yard sign.
There is nothing wrong with creative thinking and having some fun with this stuff, because honestly, these days, if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing it. So
sure.
Good for you.
And then there's so much of the same, most of these campaigns and the slogans, and it's all the same. And people just tune out. And so what you need to do is sort of break through in new ways to get your message out there.
Absolutely. Well, good luck to you, and we'll be in touch in the next few weeks and keep tabs on how you're doing, and let us know if there's anything else we can do for you.
That sounds great. Thanks, Anthony.
All right. Thanks, Surya.